This is a demo for a custom MES screen that we've made up for some simplified input for some shop floors. The way the default MES screen would work is that each employee would be expected to clock on and off of jobs individually, reporting their individual quantities as they complete them. And for some environments that might not work out well, and for this particular customer we originally developed this for, what they preferred was a method where the supervisor at the end of the day could clock on, fill in all the jobs and quantities that they completed, and then have that all shot up to a screen where somebody can review the hours that they get calculated and prorated out, and then entered into time and expense entry automatically. We've also built in some automatic job receipt to inventory logic into this screen. So it supports quite a bit of different features with a very simplified user interface. So let's start off with actually another screen we created, which is a custom version of quick job entry. And we'll explain when we get to it why we have this custom version of this screen, but we'll start off here. You can see it's very similar to the regular quick job entry. So I'm going to go ahead and pick a part that I'm going to create here. Pick a rev for it, pick a quantity. I'm going to say I'm going to do 5 of this one. This area down here is where it's really different. We actually are specifying bin destinations. This has to do with that part later on where we are going to automatically do job receipts to inventory at the end of the shift. So what I'm doing here is I'm saying where I'm expecting this quantity of 5 to go to. So I might say, alright, I want 3 of them to go here, and I want 2 of them to go to here. So that's at this point then we'd come and hit save job. Another thing that's slightly different than regular quick job entry is after you save the job, we don't immediately proceed to where you're creating the next job. What the idea here is, this was the job that was created, it was 2497, and I could go to the issue material button here, and if I wanted, this opens up my mass issues to manufacturing. I did do a control V to paste the job number in there. But this would be a way you could issue the materials without jumping around from several different screens. This particular job, I've got everything's back flush, so I don't really need to use that here. We also have a print schedule button. This simply fires off a BAQ report that would have been developed. As you've got all these jobs and we're specifying the bin destinations for it, they wanted to have a schedule that would say, okay, here's the jobs that are going to come out and here's the bins that we're expecting them to go to. Again, we don't have to do that necessarily here, so I'm just going to hit next job. And I'm just going to go ahead and do 2 more jobs here just so we've got a few to work with. So we'll do 10 on this one, and we'll send it all to a single bin. We'll send it to 004. Yeah, we'll send all 10 there. Oops, and I got to pick a revision. Pick one last job here. These are all very similar jobs as far as how they're set up. We'll just do 6 of this one. Yeah, we'll send that one to just this bin here. Okay, so now that we're going to have some jobs to work with here, we can actually start using this customization. Now, another thing that for this particular setup they wanted to do is, as opposed to having each employee clocking in or any sort of person clocking in, they wanted to instead use the operation number as what they were clocking in at. Now this is it really is an employee. They've literally got employees defined as these operation numbers, but they just have a single workstation where they're defining at each work center where they're doing all this labor. So the first operation sequence that's not back flushed is operation 30. So they would come in at the beginning of the day and punch in operation 30. This could be at the beginning or the end of the day. It doesn't really matter specifically like it would in regular MES when you do this. just like regular MES, it's going to ask you what shift you're on, and then it would come and it would ask them what their crew size is and how many hours they're working on that shift. So let's say at operation 30 I've got 2 people out here and I'm working an 8-hour shift. And next it'd come down here. This is supposed to be very barcode driven here, so what we're expecting is you would have a barcoded label for the job number. You could type it in, which is what I'm going to do here, but as long as it would send the enter key after the scan, that would be acceptable. So I'm going to type in the 2497, and what that does down here is it adds a new row to this grid where we see part number, quantity completed, scrap quantity, and scrap reason code. So let's say I did, this was for 5 total. Let's say at this operation I did 2 of them. And at this point, because you don't you may decide to use this all at the end of the day and fill in all the information right at the end, or you may instead decide to, as you're completing them, keep coming back to this screen. Either way works equally fine. So let's say at this operation 30, the person who was filling this in, they log out and they come back a little bit later. That data will still be there. And if they wanted to come in and say, you know what, right now I've actually completed all 5 of them, they could do that. And let's go ahead and fill in the other jobs. Let's say for 2497, that was for 10 of them. Actually, I did the same job number I did earlier here. So you can see if you scan the same job in, you actually get an additional row for it. That doesn't, you can either edit the existing row or you can add the data to the new row. If you wanted to keep them separate just for keeping things straight, it really doesn't matter. It gets rolled up into a single entry by the time it's all done. We do have a scrap quantity field here, so you could say if you had scrap 2 of them in the process, and you can also pick your scrap reason code here if you like to. Alright, so I'm going to do 2498, which is my next job. And we'll do, so we did all 10 of those, and then 2499, and let's say we did all 6 of those. Okay, so when they were all set at the end of the day, eventually what they're going to do is they're going to clock out here. And it's going to, just like regular MES, going to ask you if you want to clock the employee out, and we'll be all set there. Now, we actually, let's go ahead and clock in the next 2 operations, just so we can see what they've got going on. Operation 60 was the next non-backflushed operation I had on here. And this would work exactly the same. You do have an opportunity to give them a different crew size here. Maybe I had 3 people working here. And maybe my shift hours, as opposed to it being 8, because this shift hours gets divided up amongst the jobs prorated by quantity, if you want to use a value less than the full hours that people were physically in the building, you can do that, and that might account for your indirect time, the startup and shutdown time for the machine. So maybe on this one I'll say 6.5 shift hours. And you can fill in the same data here. I'm just going to keep it real simple here and just do the full quantities. And I won't do any scrap for this particular one. Okay, so what we'll actually do is we're going to stick with these 2 operations first, just so you can see what happens, because the last operation we're going to involve the finished goods receipt. So let's look at what we've got so far. We've got this custom screen. Actually, before I show you that, let me show you what the labor ticket looks like as it stands at the moment. So if I go to time and expense entry and I pull up employee ID 30, I'll see there is a single record here for the amount of time I've been clocked on. I haven't been clocked on for very long here, obviously. And anything that Epicor would have created by default for in idle time records and such. So we don't, even though we've entered these, they've not yet hit inside of a time and expense entry. I must have had an earlier entry here that I didn't clear it up just yet. So let me go ahead and just delete that. That way we don't have to look at that later on. Now we have this other screen called labor approval, and this is a custom screen we've got developed. And what this does, when you search here, you're going to see entries for each of these unapproved batches of data, basically. So I've got one for operation 30, one for operation 60. So if I look at that, I'll say here's the date, here's the shift, here's the operation, the process status is unprocessed, what my crew size is. I had 2 people, shift hours were 8, and then here's all the jobs and quantities that were performed in there. Now this is all editable, so if they made a mistake out on the shop floor, you've got the opportunity to fix that up here. So let's say that their crew size, that they actually had 3 people out there, not 2 of them. What you can do is come in here and hit this recalculate button, and what it does is it attributes the labor hours based off of quantity there. So I can come in and I can tweak this to get it however I want to get it. And when I'm all set, I just hit the approve button here. And what that's going to do is it's actually going to, when it's all done processing, tell me labor records have been created. If I went back, that was operation 30 I just did there. You'll see in addition to the indirect that we have, we'll have all the individual labor hours that were calculated out for those specific jobs. And they're already submitted and approved. So you really don't have to come in here to see it other than just to prove that it worked, right? Pull up that remaining one we have, and you can see this list is basically presented as kind of a queue of things you have to process. So after you process them, they're dropped out of here. So we'll just recalculate this one, see how it divided the hours up, and approve it. So these first 2 operations, because these aren't the last operation, are purely labor. We haven't, unless back flushing was involved, which obviously would automatically do back flushing just like if you manually key these into time and expense entry. Everything else is completely labor. Operation 140 is the last operation I have on this particular job, so I'm going to clock on to operation 140 here, and just like the other one, it prompts you for the shift, your crew size, and your shift hours. But the biggest difference with this one is this grid actually changes a little bit because we've got a job, but we also require a bin now. So the idea here is that you're going to tell it what job you're doing. So I've got 2497, which bin that's going to, and this still is very barcode driven, so it's expecting a barcoded bin that would hit the enter key afterwards. So I'm just going to type it in. And you tell your quantity completed here. So let's say I went ahead and did 3 of my 5. You either would have hit the enter key or scanned that in. What actually happened behind the scenes, and it happened so fast you may have not noticed it, is we actually went ahead and did a job receipt to inventory right there. So if I go to job tracker now and pull up 2497, go to manufacturing receipts, we'll actually see that it did a job receipt to inventory to the bin that I told it to go to for the quantity I told it to go to. And you can have all the different bins that you might have. I had 2497 going also to bin 02. And that would just perform another job receipt inventory behind the scenes there, sending 2 of those parts to that other bin. So if we go to here, you'll see that second receipt occurring. And you'd go through and repeat this for all of your other jobs. And let's do 10 to this one. And the last one was 2499. Get all 6 of that. Aside from the job receipts inventory and the grid looking a little different, nothing else is different from this operation on the labor side than it is for any of the other jobs that we worked on. So if we come in here and search, you're still going to see a operation 140. There's still the same editable stuff that you can recalculate, and and those will get attached to a time and expense entry operation for them. So actually I need to, I'm pulling this up a little bit prematurely here. Let me go ahead and clock out and refresh this here. Now recalculate. Now you'll see the labor hours there. So you still approve this just like you did with the other one, and that'll create the labor. So now we've pretty much come full circle. We've got the job receipts inventory, and for each of the operations on here, we're going to see the individual labor transactions occurring at each of the different stages that we've had that occur. So that's the our simplified MES screen here. This, just like anything else, can be customized as you see fit, but it might be a good start for anybody that's looking for something that really steps outside of the normal Epicor behavior of wanting to clock on and off to get the time elapsed. This instead figures out time purely based off of prorating the quantities and the crew size and the shift hours.